I'm Laura Bonnell, and this is the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast coming to you from Detroit. Please subscribe and even rate and comment on our podcasts when it moves you. I learn something new with every podcast, and I'm always inspired by the people that are showcased here. We don't give medical advice. You need to connect with your doctor for that. I hope that this Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast educates you and sparks some volunteering or advocacy. The CF community needs people like you. Thanks to our sponsors, Viatris and Vertex, for their support. The North American Cystic Fibrosis Conference is one of those places that you go to learn, and you really want to be there every year because there's like 5,000 people and you make so many connections and you learn about new programs and new things and new people. Well, the child life specialist is not something new that I learned about, but it is something I celebrate and encourage parents and caregivers to find out about. And I met Abby Rose there, who is a child life specialist. She works at Seattle Children's Hospital, and she supports both the Cystic Fibrosis program and the Pediatric Hemodialysis program as well. And she is originally from Wisconsin, but she earned her bachelor's degree in psychology and family studies from the University of Wisconsin and later completed her master's degree in child life at Edgewood College. And she focuses on so many things, as you're going to hear in this podcast. And I hope that if you have never heard about child life before, that this really inspires you to make sure that you ask the next time your child or adult child even is hospitalized. But if you start when they're kids, they'll have the tools by the time they're adults, but I highly recommend it. Welcome, Abby. I am really glad that we're finally getting you on the podcast after talking about it last year. It's happening today. And also, before we started recording, we were talking about cats, and your cat might meow, and I love that. I have a cat, and usually what she'll do is she'll start walking behind me, and she'll start coming around and wants to sit like right here and look at me. And if you're not watching, if you're just listening on the audio, she likes to sit in front of me, which isn't conducive to doing a podcast. So she'll climb behind all the microphones and everything and sit there.
Yeah, he might peek up, just say hi.
What's his name?
His name is Rigby.
Oh,
so
cute.
He's named after a Beatles song, Eleanor Rigby.
Eleanor Rigby, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, fantastic. If we were allowed to play that music, I would have it queued up right here. Child life, as I mentioned in the introduction, is so close to our heart. It helps us with our girls so much. And I first wanted to ask you why you got into it, because it really takes a special person to be in it. You're working so hard with every single patient and their different needs. Why did you decide to enter this field?
Yeah, child life is an amazing, just experience. It's an amazing field, and it's one that's very, unknown unless you've had to use it. So I find myself explaining my job a lot. But I kind of started finding I found that connection working with kids when I started teaching swimming lessons, actually, when I was about 16. And I saw how water and swimming is something that can be very scary for kids. But if you're able to find the right method of teaching them, whether it is through a game or through singing or kind of making it fun and funny, kids would take to it so much easier. And so you were able to see all these different ways of in 2 weeks, you could get a kid who was afraid of swimming into floating all by themselves, and how proud they were and how excited family was. And it was just such this positive experience. And through that, I actually had a family who had worked with a child life specialist and was like, don't know if you've noticed this, but you should look into this. Like, you're already doing some of the stuff that they do. Like, please look into it more. And so then it kind of snowballed from there. Like, I got connected with a family friend who was a child life specialist, and started doing some schooling, was able to shadow a child life specialist during a mentorship in high school. And, I think everybody, when they get into college, has that exploration where they're like, hey, is it this one? Like, maybe it's a more psychology route, maybe it's a more teaching route. And I kind of had that moment of like fluctuation. And then I took my first like Child Life 101 class, and I was like, oh no, it's this. It's definitely this. And it's been no looking back since then.
And it's wonderful. You do everything. I mean, every child life specialist and group at every clinic or CF clinic is different, but in our experience, sometimes they're playing the guitar or they're doing relaxation things or they're catering to kids or they're bringing painting or blankets or bringing in, facilitating bringing in a pet or something like that. It is honestly, everybody should have a child life specialist, right? It's amazing. And first of all, we had the experience of the Beads of Courage program. So why don't you tell us about that program?
Yeah, so Beads of Courage is an incredible program. And, there is something where kids don't understand you can take this pride with you for doing this. Like, it's very helpful to have something concrete. So when you can hand them something and saying, you did this really hard thing, and here is what you get to show for it, it builds that connection like a little bit deeper. So we have had the amazing opportunity of having a donor through our CF Care Center who funds our Beads of Courage program. And so this is something that when I took over the role 2 years ago, like really wanted to start and like kind of make it more involved. So now we're up to about 40 kids in our program that utilize it. We have, huge starter sets. We have all these specialty beads. Even staff is really focused on getting kids involved and offering it to families and finding opportunities for it. And we're actually one of the only programs in the hospital. It's our CF Care Center and then our hematology oncology. Otherwise, we're the only programs that have Beads of Courage in our hospital. So it is something
Wow.
that's really, really special. And I actually have one kid where every time I give them their beads, they just hold on to it through like their throat swabs, through any blood draws. They just hold it like really close to their chest. And it's the sweetest thing because you can see how much having something physical showing what they've done means to them.
To be a little bit more descriptive, because we still have theirs. Never got rid of them, but their little beads, don't they, because it was a while ago when they were in peds, but don't they have like, it'll show a blood draw on the bead or it'll say like being brave or something like that? Describe what the beads look like.
Yeah, so we do have some beads that will say directly on there. Otherwise, a lot of the beads now will have little cards that come with that they're able to keep with them that explain, like, we have a helping hand bead that then has a description on the back on like a little card that they're able to keep. For the most part, the beads are pretty simple. They're all color coordinated. And then there's a couple specialty beads throughout. So we have like black for blood draws, brown for throat swabs. We have like a light green for PFTs and any ultrasounds, a rainbow for when they do respiratory therapy. So we have everything they do really has a meaning. Then we have some of the specialty beads. So in kind of revamping the program, I was trying to do the math, and between having everybody in isolation, their clinic visits, and their throat swabs alone, on the light estimate side, because we know sometimes they have to do extra, kids by the age of 6 have earned 80 beads just in those three categories. So that's not
Wow.
including blood draws, that's not including scans, anything like that, or any other special visits. So we do have a special like handmade polymer bead right now that they all look different and it's part of the 100 bead club. So for the most part, when our kids start, they automatically get their 100 bead club to show like even before this, you've been doing all these amazing things. But so we do have some of those specialty beads. We also have some like special moment beads. So like if you get admitted to the hospital, there's a bead for that. Overnight stays, there's special handmade beads for discharge. I mean, there's so many different kinds. And then we do have just kind of like our standard set, which are mostly just based off of color coordination.
I think one of the beautiful things about this program, obvious to you and I, but I think it's great for the kids because exactly what you just said. Sometimes they're like, oh, not a big deal. I do 100 blood draws a day or whatever it is. They're just like not really uh, giving themselves credit for all that they've been through because they're so used to it. And I'm in this leadership program right now, philanthropy program, and it goes the same for adults. We had in this program a mom who said, I advocate, but I'm nothing. I'm just a mom. And we were like, wow, okay, you organize, you are an executive in this advocacy for your state, blah, blah, blah. This long list of, you would go to school for what she did, and it was her just downplaying all the knowledge, expertise, and connections and everything she's done. She needed a bead
Yeah,
necklace or bracelet about, oh my gosh, what you do and the impact it has on the rare community every day. Like sometimes we need those visual reminders that really end up empowering us, right? And let us
absolutely.
see the impact that we're having.
Just is a hard word because I have kids who do it too. I do it, but nobody's just anything. You know, you are a person, you are working really hard to get through all this stuff. And it's one of those things where you kind of forget, like, if you yourself doesn't have, a fear of needles or a fear of blood draws, it's kind of hard to get yourself in the mindset of, well, why is this kid so afraid of it? Like, why are they having a hard time? And so you do have to like recenter, and the parents who are able to sit in that room and be like, last time it took 3 pokes, we are not doing it again. My child is scared. It's really hard on them. We're going to try with 1 poke. And then if that doesn't work, we need a new phlebotomist. Like that is such a hard thing to do. It's such a powerful thing to do. You're not just a parent. You are their number one advocate, their number one team member. You are the support system that so many people didn't know they needed. So it's really important to show here are these incredible things that you are doing every day, even if you don't realize it.
Boy, obviously we're talking the same thing because I had the benefit of having child life specialists for my daughters, their whole hospital stays. And really it was because we got to the point where one of the girls, I don't like to name which one just because it's their own privacy of what they went through, but that was really afraid of the blood draws, run down the hall screaming and that kind of thing. It was so traumatic. And it started because, and we love every, the whole team, but sometimes a team member can forget you're dealing with a 6-year-old and either your height or the tone of your voice scares them. And it scared my daughter. And this nurse wouldn't do the countdown, the 3, 2, 1. That was it. She just needed a little heads up. And the nurse said no. And I looked at Emily and I said, hey, Em, you're in charge. You think we need a new nurse? And she said, yes, ma'am, I do. And I said, yeah, we are going to have to get somebody else. And in the end, we had to get one of the life flight nurses because It was such a traumatic thing for her, and it had been so many times and so many pokes, and I had to actually leave the room and go cry in the hallway because I didn't wanna cry in front of her. It's such trauma for all of us, and then that life flight nurse, I mean, so experienced, just she didn't even know they had drawn her blood. They were talking to her, making her laugh, and that's when they said, "Do you know there's child life in this hospital?" And we were like, "What?" We didn't know anything about what you all do, and it was the key to everything for us. It was life-saving. So, thank you for all you do, and I just want everyone to know about what you all do because you promote transparency, and I want you to talk about this. Open communication, which you mentioned, the rights of families. Talk about that and why it is so important.
Yeah, and it's you are not alone in not knowing. Well, yeah, this is actually like a pretty constant back and forth that I experience and my many of my coworkers experience is we are brought in after that trauma has already happened. Or we have families that will give us a call and just like, listen, our last blood draw went really bad. Like they were screaming, they wouldn't go in the building. And we tried like 3 other times, and then somebody told us you existed. It was like, no, we want to start early. Nobody wants to see their child in distress. We want to work so that they feel comfortable and confident and are able to use those advocacy skills on their own, because that is a lifelong skill that unfortunately not all that many people have or are comfortable with. So that is definitely something that we try to promote. And one of the reasons why it's like when I saw you speak at this conference, I was like, I really need to do this because trying to grow the recognition of child life is so important. And it's hard because there's usually not enough of us for every person as much as we would want there to be. But yeah,
Right.
it is a big part of my job is making coping plans with families, like talking ahead of time and saying, would you like a countdown? Are you okay seeing the materials that they're using? Would you like those covered up? Would you like your view blocked? Would you like to watch? Giving them that appropriate choice in that moment gives some of that power back to kids. And I mean, when you're looking at the hospital experience, most of the time they don't have a choice on their throat swab. They don't have a choice on their blood draw or their scans. So finding that opportunity for appropriate choice is so powerful and can really make or break situations. And I've even gotten to the point with some families where they just kind of want me standing in the corner because they know if somebody doesn't do something or somebody's like, not coming in and starting a countdown, that I will speak up for that. Obviously, the hopes is that families feel comfortable and more confident and are able to do it without us. But, I'm always happy to be there in any way, shape, or form if it makes it take that stress off of the family a little bit.
Yeah, it was great. I would say that the child life specialists ended up being the best friends of not only the kids, the patients, but the parents too, because
Mhm.
it was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. I think I may have said this in my talk, but it was holding, a tube that had, like, these pretty sparkles in it and water, and she was turning it in different directions in distraction, and again, she was 6 when you finally all started working with her. It was fantastic, for both of them and for us. So I learned so much from it in to parent and to help, and even yesterday, um, the girls are 28 and 31, but I got a call from one of them, concerned about a visit, and we did breathing and like the urine control kind of thing. Like these are lifelong lessons that you're
Yeah.
teaching parents. So I can't say enough about it. And if parents aren't aware about the child life community, how do they find out? How do they get access to all of you?
Yeah, so usually we try to do a lot of education throughout hospitals to different areas about, here's what child life is. Like even yesterday, I did a talk with some nursing students, and like, here's what child life is. Here's what we specialize in. You know, you can always ask for us. They can always give us a call. We're one phone call away. In the outpatient setting, which I'm primarily in, it definitely is a little bit tricky. I mean, we are very fortunate at Seattle Children's that I am dedicated on CF days to our CF clinic. But otherwise, like we have, you know, maybe 2 people for the 40 specialty clinics we have. So it can be really difficult to be there for everyone. And so, like, educating staff on, like, hey, yeah, this is something that we could do in a phone call. We could do a prep ahead of time. We could, yeah, we could be there present for the support system. So, really doing the education on behalf of staff to tell families that's there. Most websites for hospitals do have a child life support like system if it's listed, or they have them available at their hospital. Sometimes it is only inpatient. Inpatient is still where child life really thrives and is most present. But yeah, if you ever ask, like, I mean, typically social workers are very aware of child life. A lot of nurses are very aware of child life. Or if you look on the hospital's website and just search up child life, hopefully it should come.
And what did you have to do in college what kind of degree did you have to get to be prepared for child life?
Yeah, so I followed the child life route when I was initially starting to explore the fields. They were in the progress of moving towards master program. So that was already in my like line of sight. So they rolled that back, but you typically, everybody has to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in something child related. So for me personally, my background is in psychology and family studies, but I have coworkers who have backgrounds in sociology, early childhood education, in social work, like a wide variety of things. So you have to have a bachelor's degree in something. There are 10 classes that you need to take. I actually have a handout of the classes because it's been a while since I've had to take them. But they are typically in child development, medical terminology, looking at reactions to hospitalization, um, and then some like family systems classes, play, and then loss and bereavement, and then a research class. So a lot of us do have that background in research as well, because unfortunately, child life research is fairly limited in the world we live in. But you have those 10 classes, and then we have a 600-hour internship. So for the most part, it is harder to get an internship than to actually enter the fields. So
Wow.
a pretty good example is most hospitals only have 1 or 2 internship sites. You know, some of the larger hospitals like, you know, in Colorado or Cincinnati do accept more, but most hospitals only offer like 1 or 2 internships and only 1 or 2 a year. So you have every single person who is trying to be a child life specialist fight for these like handful of spots. So I think when I finally did get an internship, I had like 17 interviews. I had like
Wow.
4 second time offers. And so it is a big challenge. And it did take me a couple of rounds, especially with COVID, but a couple of rounds to get there and actually find a site that I was like really excited to attend. So once you get that setting it, you know, sometimes it does take 1 or 2 rounds to get there, and finding the one that you want and really working through that like interview process, because interviews can be very difficult, especially when it's your first time and it's a very professional interview. It's a big change from some of the things that you might see.
So are you in demand? Which I hope so. I hope it's because you're so important. And I wondered if there were enough of you or if there's a shortage of child life.
Yeah, so there's actually only about 6,800 people in the world that have a child life certification. So the US and Canada are two of the biggest places that have child life specialists. I believe last time I checked, there's like one person in Hong Kong, and they're trying to build a bigger system in the Middle East, but there's not many of us. In a lot of places, like we are super fortunate at Seattle Children's to have a very large team. I think between our child life specialists, our play specialists, our music and art therapists, we have about 55 people in our department that can provide that psychosocial support. But where I did my clinical internship, we only had about 6 child life specialists there. And given it was a smaller hospital, but that was still a pretty big team. Like there are some places that still only have one child life specialist for the entire hospital. So unfortunately, we are in high demand, but unfortunately low in numbers. And some of that does come down to, there aren't that many internships. So if you, go to a big university and start pumping out all these child life specialists, then there's not going to be enough roles for them. So it is unfortunately something where there's not enough of us. And every hospital runs a little bit different. Where in Seattle Children's, we are built into programs, but there are some places where it's still mostly philanthropy based, where we are built into the donations, or we are have some people who are through the hospital and some people who are through supplemental programs. So it varies by hospital, but typically I would say there are not enough of us.
Wow. Well, if I was the queen of the world, I would have like billions of dollars for the child life, and
Mhm.
everybody would have so many, because I just think you're just critical to care. And I wondered, you mentioned in the information I was reading about you that you talk to families about their rights, and what kinds of things do it is important to bring up, or that you think families run into?
Again, kind of back to like the choice, like their rights to choose. Like if you have done a blood draw and it was a horrible experience and you're got poked 5 times, you have every right to say, we are trying once with you, and then I need a new phlebotomist. Or we need to call a child life specialist in and we're not doing anything until they arrive. Like you have every single right to put your foot down in protection of your child. Unfortunately, again, we don't have a lot of choice on the procedure itself, whether it's blood draws, throat swabs, in some of the other clinics, like dressing changes or things like that. But you have a say on how we can get it done. So if we're going to have less people in the room. While it's great to have like nursing students and doctors, you have every right to say, I don't want them in the room. And I mean, even from my own experience, I had a child that I worked with where they had a very unfortunate experience with a student. And anytime somebody entered the room, they're like, no student. Like, even this little kid was like, they build that association of negativity very quickly. So making sure that they know they have the rights, like, you can say no to this staff member. Like, you can ask for things, you can ask for a countdown, you can ask for parental presence. That is a pretty frequent thing that comes up in child life is if a child's going for surgery, parental presence in the OR. If a parent is in the position where they feel comfortable doing that, not every parent does, and that's entirely okay. But if you are not comfortable going back, then having a child life specialist go back. Having enough time to talk with the operating room nurse so that your child feels more comfortable in this setting. Like every family has rights to make the situation how they want it to be. And knowing that they have that voice, and again, it's very unfortunate that there's a lot of people who feel dismissed in the healthcare system, whether it's their concerns, what they request, just their voice in general. So we really try to focus a lot on getting that voice present.
And it's so interesting, because one of my traumas was when one of the girls was having, they have so many sinus issues sometimes with cystic fibrosis and polyps, and they were removing the polyps, and the main doctor had a student that was going to do the procedure, but he didn't tell me until they're wheeling her back and said, "Oh, this is the student who's going to do it." And I said, well, I said no. And I said, "No, I don't want the student to do it. I want you to do it. It's too blah, blah, blah." And I didn't want to have an argument in front of my daughter, who it was making her stressed, but he refused. He said, "No, I'm having the student do it. It's a teaching hospital." And I said, "I don't care if it's a teaching hospital. You didn't give me any warning, and I don't want the student to do it." And my daughter said, "It doesn't matter, blah, blah." She's trying to like calm the situation, but I didn't have any support with me, as far as like a child life person. So that's one thing I would say to parents is be prepared, and I would have somebody with you. That's something I learned the hard way. And of course, there was a complication after, and then they did a procedure in the office and she passed out. So it was like I had said the right thing. I should have been listened to and I wasn't. So I'm just telling other parents listening, speak up. You have the gut feeling, and we just have to trust ourselves. And it was just unfortunate, but I'm glad you're out there as an advocate. What situations do you see that helped you or other patients grow as you learned things like the story I just told you?
Being comfortable, like actually one of the kind of bigger ones that I experienced when I was doing my training is reading body language in a room where there's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable asking questions. And so just being comfortable being like, I okay, I have a question about something you said, and you can like see families like, okay, like they're asking, like now I get this information. Because informed consent is the baseline of research of hospitals. You deserve to know what is happening to the level that you want it. Um, so recognizing like seeing some of those really unfortunate experiences and really taking that. So next time you do ask, like I had an experience where, and this was coming from a supervisor where they're telling me, they're like, yeah, one time I brought a light spinner into the room and I didn't ask if they were okay with flashing lights. And it ended up, the kid unfortunately had a seizure. And so now something I've built into my education, because I'm a big fan of light spinners, especially for our littles during throat swabs, but is asking families when I come in, are they okay with flashing lights? Because, you never know. And, there are some things in charts or in histories where we don't see it or it's not something that is flagged. So, just making sure that you take the time to learn from your experiences, whether it was a positive experience, a negative experience, no matter what, it's a teaching moment. And that's something that you can take in. And it goes very similar to like in blood draws, like, do you want them to count down? Do you want them to not? It's okay to watch. So if you watch, let's just keep looking. And there are some people that bite. I even had a moment where I kind of butted heads with my own phlebotomist because I'm 100% a watcher. I will sit there and just stare the entire blood draw. And they're like, okay, look away. And I was like, no. They're like, it's not going to work then. Well, that's not actually a thing. That is not
Right.
true. Do not lie to me. This is my body, and I deserve to have the truth in that.
Wow, I wonder what they were nervous about, something or something, obviously. But what else do you do that maybe we haven't touched on, that patients or parents should know about?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we do a lot of is help with like pill swallowing, medication management. Like I have made an entire tips and tricks of, here's some different tips with a water bottle. Here's how you can incorporate smells so they don't taste the medication as much. So it's a lot of that kind of creativity in building. And I know at Seattle Children's, we have like pill swallowing kits so that you can practice. Like we start with sprinkles, and then we go up to like a mini M&M and kind of build that so we can get to the level of the pill or the medication that they need to take. Also, we do a lot of sibling support. So, especially younger, like that kind of preschool age sibling where they're like, why is this kid getting attention and I'm not? Why do they get to go with mom and dad to doctor's appointments and I don't? Like giving that support, doing that child friendly education on what this illness is. It's not extra attention, but here's how we can do this together as a family without parentifying that other child. So a lot of sibling supports. Same with the children are admitted to the hospital. Like, here's how we can prepare them for the things that they're going to see in the hospital, how they can still find different activities to do with their child or their patient. Or if it's a new baby, like, hey, yeah, let's make some pictures that we can do in the room. And that way they can see all the lovely things that you're doing. Like giving that extra sibling support so they feel like more involved into that care. So I would say, especially for CF, those are probably two of the biggest ones that we do.
Yeah, those are great. And it reminds me of we had a great team, and rarely were they both admitted at the same time, but if they were put in the same room, which was lovely. So we didn't have to go running down halls and things like that. And one time, we had a friend, and they were still in peds, brought a guitar, and they did a little jam session in the hospital room. And I mean, as long as it's appropriate for what's going on and it's not like, you know, detrimental for somebody to come in, it was wonderful. Or a little pizza party, and then the healthy child can bring the pizza or bring the fun and be a part of it. That was really helpful too.
And child life departments usually are very involved in like special visitors. I know recently, like around the holidays, we had like some of the Nutcracker Ballet ballerinas come in, and we were able to show them around the hospital, and kids and siblings were able to get involved in the crafts. So like the child life department does kind of have the in on any like special, exciting things that come up. So yeah, definitely reach out if you do know a child life specialist or somebody in that department. Like a lot of places do have virtual options too, so that kids who are on isolation can still participate. But they do have like really, really great information on like, yeah, we have a zoo visitor coming, so it's going to be on on Zoom for us. So yeah, they do have the in on a lot of the really fun, like special visitors that come by.
Yes, they do. And the girls experienced that. And one other thing that was fantastic, they had the kids, whoever wanted to, draw really big pictures, and they put them up on the walls in the hospital. That was so, and then even when they weren't in the hospital, if they were going in for a clinic or a PFT, they were like, "Oh, there's my photo that I drew." It stayed up for years. That was, and then they gave it to us when they redid the hospital, but that was really cool. So they have fond memories of child life. It takes a special person. I'm really grateful to you and all of those child life specialists.
Yeah, I really love what I do. And it's something that not everybody gets to say, but I genuinely, even through the hard moments, like I do still love what I do, and I know that this is what I'm here to do. Like this is what I'm meant to do.
I'm so glad, and I'm so glad you shared it with us. And unless there's something else that you wanted to mention, I wanted to wrap up with maybe a couple of the stories that you can share with us about the thank yous that you got from some of the patients, even if it was, something little. Just you hopefully are getting really good feedback from the people you help.
Yes. And we actually get, I mean, a lot of the time it's, families who are just like, again, it's a lot of reading body language when you can see the parents just like finally take that breath that they've been holding. Or one of them is so one of my other areas that I work is pediatric hemodialysis. So I work with a lot of kids who have transplants. Before this, like I didn't talk to doctors. I didn't talk with new people. And here I am. I can ask questions. I can go into a blood draw by myself. I can ask for things. And I couldn't do that before. And like stuff like that is so important. Or, it's always unfortunate when people have to get admitted or admitted unexpectedly. But then when you get the message that's like, hey, they're asking for you to come by, like they have to do their throat swab inpatient, like they want you there. Like it just shows that relationship that you built, how strong that connection is, and that trust that they have in you. And even with that, at our national conference, I actually had a parent come to my child life roundtable. And like that was so special because it was like you see the work and you recognize it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of no thanks in the role, or a lot of people that won't actually say thank you, which is okay. Like you are focused on other things, but it does make it even more special. Like when kids give you a sticker in their sticker book, or, I actually, one of my favorites is when kids invite me to their birthday parties, because like when you
that's
have that moment
lovely.
and they're just like, yeah, you can come to my birthday party. And you're like, that means you've had a good experience if you want me there. I can't, but that is so sweet. Like it's just a
That
very
is.
positive thing, and it's a very kid way of saying thank you and I appreciate you.
That is great. I just applaud you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And yes, I encourage every caregiver to reach out to Child Life when you need them. It's very worth it. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Abby.
Thank you so much.
The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen,
It's not complicated.
who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know it's got you frustrated, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, visit our website at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's the BONNELL Foundation.org. This podcast was sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical, The Science of Possibility, and Viatris. It was produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts. Follow our show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.